All right, so today I've been working on prepping the inner convertible rocker panels or channels, whatever you refer to them as, to be welded in. I already cut them to length, so like this one's only partially slid in. I went through and drilling all the holes this morning and for all the spot welds. And eventually the panel will then slide all the way back. This will be kind of noisy, but back here. So it'll come back and butt up against that inner, or that, I guess, front vertical plate of the rear torque box, and that's going to get welded around the perimeter, at least the parts I can get to, and then it'll be spotted to the existing rocker as working my way back. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge probably pinching this together. I have quite the healthy gap there, so I'm not certain if that's the original is bowed a little bit or this one's bowed a little bit from the forming process. But I mean, I'm going to vice grip the snot out of it, so it'll be, I have a dozen sets of vice grips on there, trying to pinch it in and bring it in nice and tight, and not be welding that. The ones that are going to actually be a challenge are on the bottom of the car, underneath the rear torque box. You have that flange that sticks down. So I had put some holes in the flange because really there's no way of welding it from the outside. I guess there is if you drill through everything, but the problem is that the original inner and outer rocker have paint, or some paint and galvanized and everything else in between that joint that's where it's welded together. So you can't get that out. And then when you start to weld, you're going to go through that, and it's going to pull all that contaminant out, and it's going to make the weld absolutely just nasty probably. So I'm really leaning towards, I was just cleaning the face where this inner rocker will mount. So I cleaned the face off there, replaced, put the paint back on with all the weld through primer, so at least it'll accept a weld. And then my hope is that I can weld through this guy, the flange, into this guy, and through this guy into this one, just to tie all three together. Now, knowing that it's probably not going to be perfect, all these other spot welds will definitely hold it together, and then the one at the back going around the perimeter will keep it tied. So I don't think it's going to really matter. I'll probably end up seam sealing it when it's all said and done, but I'd really love to have it all nicely pulled together and welded all the way through. So we'll wait and see if that actually is possible, but time will tell. So anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at now. The next thing I got to do is put this in and start clamping everything in place. Well, actually, prior to that, I should say, I'm still on the fence here. I'm looking around for materials around the garage here that I want to try to move I want to add a second seatbelt bracket or hole back 6 or so inches, just in case there's a longer lap portion that goes around from the side, just so it can, the geometry's a little better if it comes further from the back. But the just so I have another option. If I don't use it, it's no big deal. The carpet will cover it. I'm not too worried about it, but I just like to have the option of having that back further if I want to. So to do that, I believe I purchased another inner rocker that I was going to put on, and then I have my old one over here, the original off the car. And so I'm just gonna drill that off, take that one off, and weld it on the other side. So I think that one will work for one of them, and I'll have to see if I can find another. I think I have another panel around here somewhere. See if I can find the other one, because otherwise I'd have to drill a piece of thicker steel to try to and tap it and try to make it the right size. And I don't know if I have anything thick enough for that. I may have some quarter, that's about it. So I don't really want to do it any thinner than that, or it's not going to have much threads holding it in there. So so that's pretty much what I'm going to probably start doing that here next. If I can get that one separated from the old panel and then find the other one around here, I'll probably end up trying to add that in there. The ones that come in the new panel, I guess you can see it right through that little gap through there, barely. But it's it's pretty thick. It's say borderline 3/8 thick, maybe 5/16. That plate that's it's right in there. I'd love to have, there you go. So I'd love to be able to put the same type of piece on there, but I just don't have any stock that size. So I have to think about it, see if I can figure something out. But that's the plan, at least. Okay, I have discovered something very interesting along the way here. I removed this seatbelt bracket from the original inner rocker off the car, and wanted to clean the threads up just to make sure they weren't jacked up or anything, so just to run a tap through it. So I put my thread gauge in there, and the thread gauge shows that it is a 7/16 20 thread, which, tap fit through like a charm, just ran right through. It's not this tap, different tap. But anyway, so ran that one through, that's 7/16 20. The convertible rocker, the inner rocker that I ordered, has a 7/16 16 in it. So no idea why, or not 16, is it 14? 14, 7/16 14, sorry. Has a 7/16 14 in here. So no clue why, but they went coarse on one and fine on the other. I don't know if the guy just grabbed the wrong thing to run it through the hole or what. So that's awesome. So now I will definitely have to remember which one's which, but I know my original bolts are going to be 7/16 20. So very interesting. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pop a hole up here, and then put one of the brackets on the back, weld it in, and go from there. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I guess, I don't know if is a convertible. Do convertibles have coarse threads? I don't know why they would, but if they do, that's news to me. But if anybody knows and want to leave a comment in the bottom, that's cool. It's just a little surprising. I just didn't know if it was something where, it's made in Taiwan or something. They just grabbed a 7/16 tap, regardless of which one it was, and ran it through the hole. Because imagine the tap drill size is probably pretty close. Not identical, but probably pretty close. So I'm sure you could force it through there. So anyway, just thought that was interesting. And actually, if you look at it, if you look at the threads, which it's going to be kind of hard to zoom here, but let's see if we can get it. They're very flat on the top of all the threads. So like what would be the minor diameter, I guess, of the hole. But with how flat they are, that tells me it's not the right size tap drill for that thread. So that's kind of just screaming to me that they used the wrong tap. So anyway, just thought that was interesting, and I'll have to check the other one to see if it's the same, and go from there. All right, so I drilled some holes there for some spot welds to come through, and got my bracket, and so that's basically just gonna be situated on there, and pinch with some vice grips, maybe put the bolt through the hole, whatever, just to kind of pinch it together, and then I'm gonna weld it from the other side. So just fill the two holes in and sand them smooth and call it good. So that's kind of the plan at this point, just to give myself some more options for seat belts. Anyway, I'll get on to clamping this up. All right, so I've got it all clamped in place. It's held up pretty tight against the end there. It's got a little gap at the top, but it'll fill pretty well with weld. Shouldn't be a problem. Like I said, I'm only gonna go around probably up that face here and then over the top, and then obviously relying on all the spot welds and then the welds that are underneath the bottom, because obviously I can't get a welder. I can't get up inside there and weld that. It's just a little too tight. But I cleaned off the original electrocoat or whatever this black stuff is, and then I hit that with weld through primer on that face. So when I go to weld it on there, the inside should still be protected. But it pulled up nice and tight, I think, for the most part. There's no real air gap in there. It seems like it's clamped pretty tight. If you look in the holes, you can really, you can see the panels right there. So kind of vice grips on it. I've got to clamp the bottom some more, and actually have to straighten the bottom of the original rocker a little bit under there. As I get closer to that part of welding, I'm going to be tapping it in with a sheet metal hammer just to kind of get it nice and flush. So that's kind of where it sits right now. I've got to start putting some welds on it, but I'm going to take a look around, make sure I'm not forgetting anything, and then get to welding. Okay, so I'm done welding for now, I think. I was having a lot of difficulty with my welder, and I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on because as I was welding, it would spatter a lot, and I'd get a lot of chunks of the rod balling up and kind of falling off. I even had it burning back a little bit, which is kind of odd. But anyway, I've kind of narrowed it down to the weld through primer is screwing me over and over again here. So I'm going to strip it off the other side in just the areas where the welds are. I'll put the piece in, mark it all with a Sharpie, and then just take off like a dime-sized piece everywhere, or little areas anywhere there's going to be a weld, just so I can hopefully preclude it from happening again. But yeah, you can see these little tracks where the beads would roll up and just ball up and roll off of there. And I had that happen a couple years ago, and I forgot about it. I couldn't remember what brand I'd used. This time I was using a 3M. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but it definitely doesn't like much of it on there. If you dust it, you might be okay, but if you put any more than that, you're really kind of screwed. So it just really spits and sputters when you're welding otherwise. So anyway, I've got it welded in solid across the back. I've got all the top and the bottom, spot welds welded in, and then my new seatbelt hole there on the back. So I think everything was pretty good overall, though. Everything lined up. So I'm going to put a tape on it to go across to make sure nothing moved, side to side, which I don't really imagine it would, because the dimensions were good before I started, and just see where I'm going from there. So for now, I think that's probably all I'm going to do. I don't know if I have time to do the other one right now, and I'll hit the next one when I get a chance.